walking towards the vehicle, ma'am.
Wait, I didn't do anything wrong.
He stood on the sidewalk outside his own home and watched the police lead his wife away in handcuffs. 12 years of marriage ended in less than 12 seconds. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. A patrol car idled at the curb, and Daniel Harper felt something he could not explain because the woman being placed into the back seat was the same woman he once married out of pure compassion. When he proposed to Emily Carter, people called him a hero. When she was arrested, they called him a victim. What no one understood was that this marriage did not begin with love. It began with pity, and pity would cost him more than he ever imagined. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Daniel was 42 when he met Emily. Stable job, quiet life, no wife, no children, and a growing fear that time was passing him by. Most evenings he came home to silence, reheated food, and the glow of a television that felt more like background noise than company. Emily entered his life through a local volunteer group that supported people facing hardship. She rarely spoke, but when she did, it was always about loss. Parents gone, health issues, jobs that never lasted, friends who slowly drifted away because her life was always complicated. She never asked Daniel for help directly. That was what made it powerful. He offered rides, groceries, help with forms. Each time she hesitated, just enough to make him insist. And every time he insisted, he felt more necessary in her life. Friends admired what they saw. They called Daniel kind, patient, generous. They told him most men would avoid a situation like Emily's, but he stayed. He wore their praise like armor against his own doubts. When he proposed, after only 8 months, nobody questioned it. They said Emily had finally found someone who truly cared. They said Daniel had found purpose. Even Daniel believed that. He told himself that love could grow from responsibility, that care could become connection, that if he stood by her long enough, the affection would follow. What he did not notice was how quickly his world began to revolve around her needs. Invitations declined, weekend plans canceled, phone calls unanswered. Slowly, his life narrowed until Emily was at the center of every decision he made. The first year of marriage felt calm, almost peaceful. Emily stayed home most days, saying her health made it difficult to work. Daniel never complained. He covered the bills proudly. He felt like he was doing what a good husband should do. But small things began to shift. She discouraged him from seeing friends too often, saying she felt lonely when he was gone. She asked him to handle all financial matters because paperwork overwhelmed her. She began speaking for him during gatherings, correcting his stories, finishing his sentences. Daniel told himself these were harmless quirks, signs of a woman who had been through too much and just needed stability. He didn't realize that, little by little, he was surrendering control without noticing it happening. Then the money started to behave strangely. Credit card balances he didn't recognize. Small loans he didn't remember applying for. Subscriptions and charges from places he had never visited. When he asked Emily about it, she cried immediately. She said stress made her forget things. She said her medical treatments sometimes left her confused. Daniel felt guilty for even questioning her. He apologized. He told her not to worry. He worked harder, paid the balances, and promised himself he would pay closer attention next time. But next time came faster than he expected. And each time, there was another explanation, another tearful apology, another reason for him to feel ashamed for doubting her. 3 years into the marriage, Daniel received a call from his bank's fraud department. They asked about a line of credit opened under his name with a different mailing address. He laughed nervously and said it must be a mistake. It wasn't. The representative listed purchases made in another state. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He confronted Emily again. This time she didn't cry immediately. She went quiet, then distant, then accused him of thinking she was a criminal. The argument ended with Daniel apologizing once more, promising to trust her, promising to protect her from the stress of being questioned. What he didn't realize was that someone else had already started asking questions, and they weren't going to stop as easily as he did. Months later, 2 detectives knocked on Daniel's door. They asked about financial activity connected to his identity across multiple cities. They asked how long he had known his wife. They asked if he had ever reviewed her medical documents himself. Daniel felt a cold sensation spread through him. The questions felt strange, almost insulting, until one detective placed a folder on the table. Inside were records, photographs, and names he did not recognize. 2 other men, 2 other engagements, similar stories, fragile woman, fast relationship, financial access, disappearance. Daniel stared at the pages, unable to connect the woman in those reports with the wife sitting in his living room. The truth did not arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly, painfully, like a thread being pulled from fabric. Emily had used different names before. She had forged medical records. She had targeted men known in their communities for being dependable and kind. Men who would feel guilty questioning a woman who appeared vulnerable. Men who would offer help before she asked for it. Daniel realized that everything he thought was unique about their relationship had been rehearsed before. The hesitation that made him insist. The tears that made him apologize. The illnesses that made him protective. None of it had been accidental. He was not her husband in the way he believed. He was part of a pattern. The night the police came, Emily did not argue. She did not cry. She simply looked at Daniel with an expression he had never seen before, calm and unreadable. As officers placed handcuffs on her wrists, she said only one sentence to him. "You were supposed to be different." Daniel did not know what that meant. Different from the others she had deceived, or different from the man she expected him to be. As the car drove away, neighbors whispered words like fraud, scam, investigation. Daniel remained on the sidewalk long after the lights disappeared, replaying 12 years in his mind, searching for moments he should have understood sooner. In the weeks that followed, Daniel learned more about his own marriage from investigators than he ever had from his wife. Bank statements, email accounts, false identities, carefully timed moves from city to city. He felt embarrassment before anger, shame before betrayal. He wondered how he had missed so much. But what haunted him most was not the money or the deception. It was the realization that his strongest quality, his willingness to help, had been the doorway she walked through. He had built his sense of worth around being needed, and someone had recognized that before he did. When prosecutors asked if he wanted to pursue the harshest possible charges, Daniel hesitated. Part of him still saw the woman he believed he married. Part of him still felt responsible for her. That conflict confused everyone around him. Friends wanted him to be furious. Detectives expected outrage. But Daniel felt something more complicated. He felt grief for a relationship that had never been real. He felt regret for warning signs he had explained away. And he felt a heavy understanding that pity is not the same thing as love, no matter how much you want it to be. Today, Daniel lives alone again in the same house, but with a very different understanding of himself. He speaks openly about the experience, not to shame Emily, but to warn others who confuse compassion with commitment. He says the hardest part was not discovering the fraud. It was realizing how easily he ignored his own doubts because he wanted to believe he was doing the right thing. He thought he was saving someone. Instead, he lost years of his life trying to protect a story that was never true. And whenever people ask him what he learned, he answers with a quiet sentence that carries more weight than anything else. Never build a marriage on pity.